got some new equipment, so I'm able to go back onto live streaming, and I figured jump on it. And since it just came out yesterday, and a lot of people have said their thoughts about it, and since I'm actually in a rare position where I can actually comment on a certain aspect of this hot button issue, I decided to throw my couple cents in. And yeah, Artemis Fowl, a new film from Disney, a film that actually should have come out sometime last year. Reasons for delay, I have absolutely no idea. Maybe Disney wanted to schedule it at a time where it might have had a bigger share of the market, because it might have got followed up by a lot of other properties that were due to come out. I don't know. Comment section. I mean, we're live, so go ahead and comment on that. I knew that about this movie going in, didn't know anything. I didn't even know it was a book series, but of course I did my research, found out that yes, there was a book. And not only was there a book, but there was a book series. I think there was about 8 books in total of the Artemis Fowl series, and they were written by Eowyn Colfer, the person who, if I'm not mistaken, wrote the Hitchhiker's Guide follow-up, and another thing, I think it's called. Either way, he wrote that. That's what the comment section's for. But so Disney made this film with Kenneth Branagh coming back to direct. He earned them a lot of moolah with his remake that he did of Cinderella, one of the Disney remakes which some people hold in some pretty high esteem. I mean, it's definitely better received than a lot of the other Disney remakes that Disney made, because it's the one that actually wanted to inject some new stuff in. I don't know. That's a debate for another day. I don't care. But for right now, Kenneth Branagh did. Now, this movie's kind of got me all over the place. But one thing I can definitely tell you is that if you have read these books and you love these books, I think the term "you just got Percy Jackson" is probably apt at this juncture, largely because of the fact that this one kind of did to Artemis Fowl what the people behind the Percy Jackson movies did to those books. So, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it. One major factor about this movie is that it's headlined by a newcomer. Ferdia Shaw is the kid's name, and I hate to say it. I mean, he's definitely not as embarrassing as, say, like, Jake Lloyd in The Phantom Menace, but his line readings were extremely broad. They definitely didn't feel like as nuanced as they could have been. Honestly, I don't know if Kenneth Branagh's heart was in this movie, because even the good actors, like the actors who you can usually rely on to deliver a decent performance, even they felt like they were just kind of phoning this one in. I don't know, the whole thing just felt extremely phoned in. And even worse, I don't know if Artemis Fowl was the right franchise to pass through Disney. I mean, I could see why Disney would have been attracted to it. I mean, the main character is a kid. So, of course, you've got a studio that's dominantly family-friendly going like, ooh, there's a franchise with a kid in it. The kids will want to go see anything that empowers kids. And I can definitely say kids will definitely watch this, especially really young kids could watch this and not feel like their intelligence is being insulted. In fact, one of the things I think kids might actually enjoy is the fact that you have kids doing very adult things and, in some very dangerous scenarios. I will say thanks to stuff like Stranger Things, we've gotten back to the age of not bullshitting kids and telling them that the world is that the world is safe. If you're a kid, you're safe. No, we actually have movies now that are actually putting kids in legit jeopardy. And that's good. And it is impressive that we have another movie with kids like in these situations where you actually see them fighting through. So for little kids, this is a passable watch for them, but for everyone else, not so much. In fact, this movie, frankly, it's so plotting. It doesn't have any kind of real hook that makes it unique, and anything that could make it unique, you don't really feel like they wanted to devote the attention to it. Now, yes, I did read the first book. That's what I meant when I said I actually had some kind of prior insight. I did read the first book. I got lucky to get a hold of a copy, and I'm going to say it, I was not a big fan of the book. Principally, I felt the writing was kind of basic, but the thing that actually did intrigue me was the notion that not only is the title character a master criminal, but he's not like, at least as far as I can tell from the first one. The thing is about the book that I wasn't really a big fan of is that the whole thing felt much ado about nothing. It kind of resolves just out of nowhere, and I felt like there was still a lot more story that needed to be told. And unfortunately, the book itself did not hook me enough to want to go forward and read more. From what I understand, the character later on reveals his true colors to actually have noble intentions, but you don't get that impression in the beginning. And because the book is called Artemis Fowl, and because so much focus is put on him, and because he is the one that does kick off all the proceedings, the attention's on him, and because he's written as this really cold, methodical character, it's really hard for you to answer the question, why should I care? There's little elements to the character which I get his motivations. His motivations are really well placed, but in the end I'm still going, why do I care? You are an asshole. Now, on one side, I'm intrigued by that idea, especially because it's a 12-year-old, and I will say he's definitely written better than other psychotic kid characters. He's definitely not a Joffrey Baratheon. He's definitely not like that, but I think because he's cold and doesn't really have much in the way of endearing personality. I mean, I get the coolness factor of having a kid who's a master thief, but he's no Danny Ocean. And frankly, what you should have done is given us a Danny Ocean Jr. That's what you should have done with the character in the books in order to make it entertaining. But then he kidnaps the character of Holly Short, and you discover, as I was reading, I was like going, wow, there's like whole bulk of this book is devoted entirely to Holly Short. And then I came to the realization her and the Leprechaun unit are actually meant to be the primary focus here. And then I'm like going, shouldn't you have added Artemis Fowl and the Leprechaun unit or something to hint that it's not just about Artemis Fowl? Either way, those are my complaints about the book. It didn't sing to me. But at the same time, though, when I was reading it, I was still going, you know what? This may not work very well as a book, but this could work really well as a movie if you put it in the right hands. And Kenneth Branagh is the right hands, but I suspect it was the right hands that he was given by the wrong studio. I really think Disney may have been the wrong studio to try and kick off this franchise, just because I don't feel like they wanted to take any kind of risks with this, when really, in order to make this one sing, you had to take some risks. And I don't feel they did. Unfortunately, in the sphere of this movie, in order to make Artemis a relatable character, they did remove the things that I think on film that may not have worked in the book, but I think on film may have been much more interesting. Make him the cold, calculating genius. And, kids would have probably clicked with that because it's just cool to see a 12-year-old kid actually be the cold, calculating genius and maybe even be a bit of a, evil mastermind. And there was a way you could have the actor play it where he could be that really cool character. But I don't feel the movie really did a good job conveying that. And instead, we have this whole thing where he's, emotionally turbulent, and he's a kid. He's a basic kid, and he's not even a really interesting kid the way he's portrayed in this movie. And it's all about him rescuing his father, which is another point against this movie, because in the book, his father is dead, or at the very least gone missing. Basically, we have no idea where he is. And Artemis is primarily interested in maintaining the integrity of the Artemis Fowl name, not the integrity as far as like them in the eyes of the world, but more about their reputation as a family of master criminals. It was so conventional the route they go here. It's just the fact that, and they don't even really do too much to dwell on his genius. Just in the beginning, you have Mulch, played by Josh Gad, narrate the whole thing, which wouldn't be so bad if he hadn't chose a voice which just doesn't really sing to being a narrator. But the movie kicks it off that way, where he lays out all these stats about the character, saying that he's a crazy super genius. But the movie really doesn't do a good job showing how intelligent the character is. And because they don't take the time about that in the beginning of the movie, you really have a hard time believing that he formulated all the strategies he did throughout the rest of the movie. And in fact, they just kind of say off screen that he planned all this in motion. You never really see the steps that he takes in order to kick everything off. And I'm sorry, but if your character is a thief, a criminal, and a strategist, as any heist movie will tell you, and as Rick and Morty did a really good job telling you, a lot of it is about the setup. That's part of the fun. And I will say this to the book, the whole beginning of the book is all setup for everything that transpires. And honestly, the only aspect that really, this is why I normally edit, but now the only thing I can definitely say, the bones of the book are there. All the characters, I will say visually, the movie looks exactly the way I envisioned in the book. To its credit, the production design did actually do a good job making me. The production design really did do a good job bringing the book to the screen. That is one point I will give in its favor. But unfortunately, because the script and the direction and the actors just don't really feel it, because none of that really feels as invested, I didn't really get the feelings that I wanted to get from this one. And even worse, they even added a really superfluous character. That apparently the butler, who doesn't like being called butler, even though in the book he's only called butler, apparently he's got a kid. He's got a kid as well. I'm like, what is the point of you? There really was no point to this other kid character. It should have just been about Artemis, Holly Short, Butler, and Root. And I know that definitely caused a bit of a stir, the fact that they gender swapped the character of Root, because Root in the book is a male, and they changed it out with Judi Dench playing Root. And now I've been for a lot of gender swapping of different characters. I definitely felt Tilda Swinton did an amazing job as the Ancient One in Doctor Strange. And I feel like the reason why I'm good with a lot of times where they do that is because the characters are loose enough where you can make that swap, where it'll still make sense. I mean, of course, Idris Elba as Heimdall is another really good example. Even Jerry Hogarth in Jessica Jones is Jaren Hogarth in the comics. It still works and it adds a dimension to the character but unfortunately, this is the one time where swapping the gender actually was detrimental to the character, especially the way the character was written in the book. And unfortunately, a lot of this review is going to be, this done differently in the book. And I know it sounds like I'm complimenting the book, but I will say the book at least was interesting enough that I was able to finish it. Most books I don't finish because I don't like them. But the major problem with what they do with Root here is that by swapping it out with Judi Dench, you honestly get it kind of removes a lot of the importance of Root's arc. Because in the book, Root is actually a raging misogynist. He's like a flat out nasty misogynist character. And the only reason he gives a damn about Holly Short is because Holly Short is kind of a loose cannon. She's extremely frustrated because she is the only female officer in what is dominantly a sausage factory. And throughout the course of the story, Root actually does start caring about Short, and to the point where he actually starts to support her. And there's a progression for the character, but unfortunately, by swapping out the gender to Judi Dench, and it just makes the character just a plot device. It does kind of reduce the character and I'm going to say it, Judi Dench does not have much to do. And you can tell because she is desperately trying to find, anything that she can cling to try and churn out something resembling a performance. But the most performance choice she can even remotely do is do her voice really low like this and use an Irish accent. I hate to say it, but you put a lot more effort in Cats. I mean, I actually believed that she really wanted to jump onto Gus the Theater Cat's bones when she showed her leg. I mean, I'm telling you, she gave a lot more effort in Cats than she did in this movie. That's a damn shame because Judi Dench is an amazing actress, and I hope to God she doesn't become the female Sean Connery. I really hope she doesn't. That'd be a damn shame. Yeah, bad taste in my mouth. Seriously, I think I need to brush my teeth. But I mean, and even worse is that you could tell they were trying to set up a franchise here, because we're setting up this big bad in the background. We never find out who the big bad really is. You know, there's always the face in the shadow type thing. Obviously, they're trying to set us up for a big bad later on down the line. But I think it's safe to say there's never going to be a down the line for this movie. I legit think that Disney flat out decided to just fob this movie off onto Disney Plus, because I think they knew deep down they were never going to bank on it any other way. And I feel bad, because anyone who knows, it is hard to make a movie, and it takes a lot of work. And any movie with a budget like this one has, a lot of work still went into it, even if everyone involved probably were having a bitch of a time trying to make it worthwhile. But on the whole, this movie is really, it's incredibly dull. And even the things that I can even say stand out about it, or they stand out for the wrong reasons. I mean, you got Josh Gad, who pretty much is just a quirk. I mean, he's a giant dwarf where he's full size, while all his other dwarves are like, and I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, I had a hard time remembering if that was a thing in the book, because I was too busy questioning a lot of his performance choices. And even worse, just his presentation was killing me. This character Mulch was brought in specifically to assist in infiltrating Artemis's house. The book is just a siege story. It's Artemis gets a hold of a diary that pretty much gives him everything he needs to know about the fairy world, and sets in motion a massive plan to get a massive sum of gold from the fairy world. And he kidnaps an operative of the LEP Recon unit, kidnaps Holly Short. And what transpires next is a big standoff between Artemis, Butler, and the fairies, as they all try to get in and get Holly Short back. That is all the book is. And I really feel like the movie just wasn't really interested in that. And it's funny, because I think the way this movie could have worked, the length is fine. And I feel like, again, if they had stuck to the book and tried to maybe inject a bit more wit and maybe a bit more personality into the primary characters, we could have had a lot more to go with. But as it is, Artemis Fowl is a plotting. I can't even call it a mess, because it still made sense, but unfortunately, it was by the numbers. Anything that they did that could have made it interesting, that they could have took from the book, they kind of stripped away and kind of made it a high budget Disney Channel movie, and that is really a damn shame. And to bring back my serving scale, I'm probably gonna have to give Artemis Fowl a 1 serving. So now here I am doing live streaming of all my reviews, principally because cutting together all that stuff, or just talk about my views on movies. I feel like I just want to get my thoughts out, and if you enjoy these, fine. But I think that's how I'm going to do it from here on in. So do you want me to keep it doing like this? Leave it in the comments below. So in the meantime, stay tuned on Narcotic Casserole. We got more editions of Comfort Flicks coming up, and I'm going to kick off my Doctor Who reviews pretty soon. And I also want to get back to work on doing my Marvelous retrospects, because I know I kind of dropped off on doing those. I really miss doing the Cinema Schlock Society, but in order to make that show, I need to have my friends here to film that. But due to social distancing, I don't want to put my friends at risk. So it's going to be a long time before we see the founder again. But fortunately, we do have some great ones coming up. So definitely stay tuned for that. So in the meantime, like, share, subscribe, click, and thou shalt be served.